Good afternoon. What a lovely afternoon as well. The sun is there right in my eyes, which is lovely. Anyway, another book suggestion, suggested reading, and this one is probably the foundational text, I would have said, for the kind of the US perspective on rewilding and rewilding science and the kind of the conservation science of rewilding. This is the book Continental Conservation. Bring that a bit closer. There is a link to it in the description, and I've stuck one in the comments at the bottom of this video as well. So Continental Conservation, subtitle being the Scientific Foundations of Regional Reserve Networks. So by edited by and largely written by Michael Soule and John Terborg. So in the late Michael Soule. John is still with us. So it's written by, it's quite a number of basically America's top academics, kind of professors at US universities, and a few people working outside of the US. So, people like John Terborg, who's probably the best kind of trophic ecologist in the world. Tropical trophic ecology is his kind of forte. Does loads and loads of field work looking at kind of the consequences of the loss of top predators and mesopredators, kind of the release of mesopredators and mesoherbivores due to the loss of top predators in ecosystems, particularly tropical ecosystems. And obviously Michael Soule is kind of the originator really of conservation biology. Then there are other, very well-known conservation scientists. James Estes, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Reed Noss, Martha Groom, who helped to write the standard conservation biology text that came out of the US. Lisa Mills. There's a whole stack of, Michael Gilpin is a really good mathematical ecologist. Eric Dinnerstein, who's obviously was once the chief scientist at WWF in the US, is now working for another organisation, but has written a superb book on called The Return of the Unicorns, I think, which I'll put a video up about that one tomorrow. But anyway, yeah, this book is fantastic if you want the kind of the US perspective on rewilding and also networks of protected areas, which is one of the key points in this book. And by networks I mean connected in terms of the capacity of animals within each individual site to move between sites. There's a black cap up there. So chapters include, let's quickly run through the chapters. So starting out, chapter Policy and Science of Regional Conservation. Then issues of scale in selecting and designing biological reserves. So again, it talks about the importance of bigness to support viable populations of kind of area dependent large animals in particular, but also area dependent smaller animals. So just requiring very big sites connected up within networks. That's a really useful chapter. Then chapter 3, this is something that's neglected in UK rewilding in particular, the role of top carnivores in providing that kind of top-down control within ecosystems, both intact ecosystems and ecosystems that are subject to rewilding. They have a key role to play, the kind of top-down regulation in terms of the dynamics and the behaviour and the population sizes of the things they predate. Then chapter 4, Regional and Continental Conservation. Again, top scientists involved: Dan Simbaloff, Dan Doak, who's another mathematical ecologist, again Martha Groom. Andy Dobson is a very good disease ecologist. It's very US focused, so I need to kind of flag up a few books that are written by a more diverse range of scientists, but Michael Gilpin again. And then chapter 5, core areas. So that's really the whole kind of, we need areas that are non-extractive, where basically biodiversity is allowed to assemble itself and to function without too much human influence, and they're the kind of the core areas surrounded by hospitable, kind of permeable landscapes around. Yeah, so that was chapter 5, core areas. Chapter 6 talks about connectivity, so you have your core areas, but then how do your key area-dependent species move between core areas across whole regions. So that's another superb chapter. And then it talks about buffer zones in chapter 7, which is kind of the wildlife-friendly farming, wildlife-friendly ranching from a US point of view, and how that provides or can be configured and managed in a way to provide that kind of permeability so wildlife can move through landscapes without too much harm to the wildlife and people that use and live in those landscapes. And then finally chapter 8, really feisty chapter, I love this one, why we need mega reserves, so big scale, huge reserves, you know, million hectare reserves basically, plus, which you can do in the US. We can probably fit in a few 200,000 hectare reserves in the UK, but those mega reserves are absolutely key to maintain within them viable populations of those area dependent species that find it tricky to move through landscapes to get between sites, so they need to be really big. So continental conservation, brilliant. It's the foundation text really. If you're into rewilding, even if you're not into rewilding and are sceptical about it, read this book, because it's really good kind of overview of the science underpinning what people say we need to some extent, which is large scale, more naturally functioning landscapes in the UK, Europe, the US and across the world. There's a link in the description for this video. It is an affiliate link, take you to Amazon. There are other retailers obviously that sell it, but yeah, check out the link, and if you want to buy it, pick up a copy and you won't regret it, because it's really, really good read. I'm going birding now.